In this video, we're going to discuss validating case law. So you found some cases on point. Now what? So let's imagine a scenario. Suppose you're doing research on government immunity, and you find a case in which the facts are very similar to your own. Let's say you find Leon versus County of Riverside, a Court of Appeal decision. And in that decision, the Court of Appeal held that the county was immune from liability. You think, great, I'm going to use this case when I make my argument. There's just one problem with that. The Supreme Court of California reversed the Court of Appeal and held that under the facts of this case, the county did not have absolute immunity under state law. Or suppose you're doing research on the issue of racial segregation, and you find the case Plessy versus Ferguson. You may have heard of this case when you were in school. It was decided in 1896, and in it the court ruled that racial segregation was constitutional provided the facilities were separate and equal. Well, as you can guess, the facilities were separate, but they were seldom equal. So in 1954, the court looked back at its decision in Plessy versus Ferguson and decided it had made a mistake. In Brown versus the Board of Education, it overruled Plessy versus Ferguson and decided that racial segregation was unconstitutional. So this is why you always have to validate your case law. Had you not used a citator to validate the cases, you would not know that one had been reversed and the other had been overruled. Now, citators do more than just help you validate cases. Let's look at the four things they do. Citators will tell you parallel citations. That is, if a case is published in more than one reporter, a citator will tell you where else it's published. Second, a citator will tell you whether a case has been reversed or overruled. Third, a citator will show you how other courts have treated the case you're checking. So, for example, if it's been distinguished a lot or criticized a lot, then it's probably not as strong a precedent as you had hoped. On the other hand, if it's been followed a lot, then it's probably fairly strong. And finally, citators will help you find other cases on point. If another case has cited your case, then there's a very good chance it's on the same issue, and citators will help you figure that out. Now that you know what citators are and why they exist, let's talk about print citators. Now, first of all, let's face it, hardly anyone uses them anymore. Law schools rarely even teach law students how to use them. I still taught my students in undergraduate legal studies how to use them, but you often will not find them in law school libraries anymore. And here at the Indio branch, we don't even have any up-to-date citators, so you won't be able to use them here, and I doubt if they still have them at the main branch of the library. The only citator in print I ever saw or used was called Shepard's. There are different sets of Shepards for the different courts. So, for example, if you wanted to Shepardize a federal appellate court decision, you would have to go to the set that included the Federal Reporter. If you wanted to Shepardize a California case, you would have to go to the set that was for California. And what I'm going to show you next are some pictures from the California Shepards. We still have our set back in our movable shells. It hasn't been updated for a while, and we don't use it anymore. No one uses it anymore. But I'm going to show it to you, not so much to teach you how to use it, but to at least give you an introduction, so if you ever have to use it, you won't be taken completely by surprise. This is our set of California Shepards. As you can see, it's quite a few volumes, and it's constantly growing. Shepards is constantly reshuffling the volumes to try to reduce the number of volumes you have to look up a case in. But you usually have to look your case up in more than one and maybe several different volumes. The paper-bound volumes there toward the end of the second shelf, those are the supplements. So it's frequently supplemented over time. And then those volumes get shuffled into the hardbound volumes. This slide shows you a close-up of a single volume. You can see that this volume covers California Reporter volumes 261 to 286 and California Reporter Second Series volumes 1 through 50. It was published in the year 2020, and there have been a lot of cases decided since then, so you will have to check more than one volume. I always told my students that the first thing they should do when using Shepards is identify every volume that's there that their case might be in. Once they've identified every volume of Shepards that their case might be in, then they need to check each one of those. So for example, if you were looking for a case in volume 65 of California Reporter Second Series, it would not be in this volume. So here I've opened a volume of Shepards at random, and I used to tell my students that I hope their algebra skills are up to snuff because there was a lot of math involved in using Shepards. After I told them that I was just kidding, they would breathe a sigh of relief. As you can see, each page is about 6 columns filled with numbers and strange-looking symbols. In the next frame, we'll look more closely at this page and I can explain to you what you're actually seeing here. Now, suppose the case you wanted to Shepardize was named California versus Von Villas, and the citation was volume 15, California Reporter Second Series, page 112. The first thing you would do is find every volume of Shepards that had volume 15, California Reporter Second Series in it. It may be more than one, it may be just one. You would then turn in the pages till you found where the coverage of volume 15 starts, and you can tell that by looking up here in the right-hand corner and then looking for page number 1, and I'll show you where the page numbers are in just a second. After you've identified the volume, you would turn in the pages till you found where page 112 starts, the coverage of page 112 starts. So everything I have highlighted in yellow here is the Shepard's coverage of that case. And I'm going to zero in on some of it in the next slide or two and show you what it means. So let's look at the beginning of the listing. First, you can see that the losing party in this case asked the U.S. Supreme Court to grant certiorari, and it was denied. You can tell that because the denial of cert, which is what U.S. Cert Den means, was published in 3 places in all 3 reporters. The U.S. Reports, the Supreme Court Reports Lawyers Edition 2nd, and in the Supreme Court Reporter. After that, you can see that this same case, California versus Von Villas, appears to have gone to the Court of Appeal twice, and you can see where it was published both times in volume 10, California Appellate Report 4th Series, and in volume 36, California Appellate Reports 4th Series, and it was also published in 13 California Reporter Second Series and 43 California Reporter Second Series. So I've scrolled down a little bit here, and every one of these cases listed here has cited the Von Villas case. So for example, the case in volume 15, California Reports 4th Series, on page 1043, you would find the Von Villas case cited. Volume 34, California Reports 4th Series, on page 819, you would find the Von Villas case cited. Now let me explain what these letters over here mean, or these symbols over here mean. There will be a list of these symbols in the beginning of each volume to tell you what they all mean, and some of them can be very technical, so I'm just going to point out what a few mean. I actually don't remember what the little tilde stands for. The J means that this case, 14 California Reporter 4th Series on page 362, was actually part of a dissenting opinion, and so a dissenting judge cited Von Villas. Here, the F means followed. So on page 1133 of 25 Cal Reports 4th Series, you will find Von Willis cited, and the case says it's following Von Willis. Now, you're probably wondering what these little numbers mean. They look like footnote numbers. They're referring to the headnote numbers in Von Willis. So this case cited Von Willis for something having to do with footnote number 23 in Von Willis. It followed it. So if that's the issue you're interested in, then you're definitely going to want to read this case. If you're not interested in the issue that is discussed in footnote 11 in Von Willis, then you probably don't need to read this case, because that's about the issue in 111. So, to recap, the most important lesson you should take away from this video is that you always validate a case before relying on it. You might save yourself a big embarrassment, or you might find other cases that could help your argument even more. You're probably wondering, if we don't use Shepards in print, what do we use? Well, there are citators available online. Originally, both Westlaw and Lexis had Shepards, but then Lexis bought the company that made Shepards, and so now Westlaw has created its own citator system called KeyCite. When we cover citing cases in Westlaw, I will show you KeyCite, and when we finally get around to Lexis, I will show you how to use Shepards on Lexis. Now that's all we're going to do for cases in print for now. I will probably come back later and add some videos, because I know I promised to show you certain kinds of cases and to go into a little more depth on how to read a case. But for now, I'm going to jump ahead to Westlaw and show you how to find cases on Westlaw. Then we'll come back to print and do regulations.